Right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you. Welcome to the fundraiser for Jeff Gates and Fran DePalma-Iozzi. My name is Jonathan Lace. I am the chairman of the Caldwell Democratic County Committee, and I want to welcome everybody to the fundraiser tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Flowerland and Frank. It's so good to see you up and about tonight, everybody. Give it up for Frank. Thank you for allowing us to use your space. You guys are a staple here in Caldwell, and we're so happy that you're here. I wanted to say thank you to Chairman Leroy Jones, who I believe was here earlier tonight, and the Essex County Democratic Committee for all their support of our candidates every single year. We very much appreciate it. And I would like to recognize other elected officials that are here tonight. So I see freeholder Lenny Luciano is here. I see Councilman Chris Barty from Roseland. And I see Councilman Roger Frieda from Roseland. And I saw she just came in, one of the staffers for Mikey Sherrill, Jill, is in the house. Thank you so much for being here. Councilwoman Christine Schmidt, where are you? Are you still here? There we go. I believe Councilman Henderson Cole and Councilman Frank Rogers are en route, so they will be here shortly. So, apart from being the chairman, why do I think that people should elect on November 5th Jeff Gates and Fran DePalma? I want to talk about sort of local reasons and then bigger reasons, just very briefly, so forgive me. I've got a few thoughts here typed up so I don't stumble through my words. Jeff and Fran have a vision for Caldwell that is based on current realities of the need for making local government, number one, more accountable, number two, for upgrading our infrastructure, and number three, for protecting our local environment here in Caldwell. That's really important. Speaking to accountability, Jeff and Fran have pledged to hold regular office hours if they're elected, which is a big deal because I can tell you, having held a few of these myself, I think residents appreciate being able to walk in at a known time when you're going to be available and speak their concerns without having to make an appointment. Jeff and Fran have pledged to do that, as well as some other things related to accountability. They will not vote to increase their own salaries by 52%. That's a big deal. Thank you, Jeff and Fran, for making that pledge. They will support plans to make our sewer and water systems true utilities, which has the advantage of lowering property tax rates for everyone in Caldwell. That is huge. They have pledged to support that, and that alone, I think, is worthy of your support. And finally, they support common sense environmental policies. That's very important, especially in this year, 2019, because the opposition has made claims in print that trying to prevent excessive nitrate runoff into local water supplies is quote-unquote nonsense. They have claimed that single-use plastics are not adversely affecting our oceans. So those reasons alone, I know I share the bewilderment. Those reasons alone, I think, are worth voting for Jeff and Fran. So locally, Jeff and Fran have a lot to bring to the table. But before I talk about each one of them individually, I just want to mention this critical point. There are, I think, reasons that are bigger than Caldwell to vote for Jeff and Fran. And here's what I mean by that. Currently, our norms of civility in the United States are slowly being eroded at the highest level. at the highest level. They are slowly being eroded by the president. He makes blanket mischaracterizations and repeated insults against anyone who dares to criticize his policy. Listen to this statement, quote, "Democrats don't care if they burn down or destroy this nation." End quote. September 29th, 2019. Quote, "Democrats want open borders and crime." August 19th, 2019. "Democrats want anarchy." July 5th, 2019. This comes from the highest level, and it's affecting our entire nation. Just today, General William McRaven, former Navy SEAL, wrote an op-ed for the New York Times, and the title of the op-ed was this, and this is the first time in my memory I can ever remember this happening. Quote, "Our republic is under attack from the president." End quote. That was the title of the op-ed in the New York Times today. The same day, tragically, when we lost Representative Elijah Cummings. So how does that relate to this election here in 2019 in Caldwell, New Jersey? Earlier this year, their opponents posted a video on their Facebook page making similar Trump-like statements like, "Democrats want Section 8 housing, they do not want neighborhoods." Democrats aren't fans of private property because they know that those who do own property have a vested interest in everything that goes on in their town that does not work in their favor. Democrats want to demonize Republicans. They have called Jeff and Fran disingenuous and dishonest, and to cap it all off, last night, one of their opponents wrote that Democrats, quote, "are all a bunch of spineless cowards." We don't need that kind of politics in this town. We don't need that kind of... Jeff and Fran, they are honest people, they are committed people, and they are not afraid to speak their minds. They are not afraid to analyze any policy from either side of the aisle based on one single criterion alone. Is it in the long-term best interest of Caldwell? Period. That's the criteria they will use to make every decision on the borough council. So I just want to reiterate that 2019 is very important and that every election in this country matters. Every election matters. Okay? So, a little bit about Jeff and Fran. I've known Jeff Gates for 2 years, 2.5 years. I first met Jeff at Calandra one night. Jeff was new to town, and Jeff saw online that there was a gathering of local Democrats at Calandra's. And Jeff stopped by, and I met him, and he and his wonderful wife, Lisa. And we had a great time, and since then, Jeff has become more and more involved in local politics. And finally, Jeff, last year, stepped up to be the vice chairman of the Democratic Committee here in Caldwell. And he's been a huge asset for Democrats here in town, a huge asset for the town. He currently serves on the Rent Review Board. He's a member of Kiwanis, a new member of Kiwanis. He and his wife have just purchased a house on Ward Place. He is probably the most honest person I've ever met in my life, a testament to his dad, Mr. Gates, who is here tonight as well, former councilman from Roxbury. And I just want to say hello to Assemblywoman Mila Jacey, who just stepped in. So Jeff Gates is a great human being, and I want to let him speak for a few minutes now about why he's running for Caldwell. Jeff?
So, thank you, Chairman Lace. I appreciate the introduction and your kind words. Thank you to everybody who came tonight. This means a lot to Fran and I. We've been out door knocking since July, trying to get out and talk with as many people as possible. You know, even just as recently as a few nights ago, you see the two high school students, Brian and Stash, that are here that are videotaping for us tonight. I happened to meet them 2 nights ago where there was a Democratic debate. They were interested in politics. They showed up at a local Dave's Deli right down the street, and we were talking about politics. I told them about this event tonight, and even though they're not old enough to vote, they came tonight because so the reality is, you know, they're the youngest people in the room right now, but we're all here for the, you know, we have a history and we have a future. And one of the things that I'm grateful about is that, you know, I'm relatively new to town. I may have only moved to town in 2017, but I've been coming here probably, I think, since about 2012 or 13 is when I really started going to Cloverleaf a lot. I got my MBA, so you can see my name on the wall there. So I really have been coming to this town in many capacities. I came here just as an out-of-towner coming to hang out in the town. My wife Lisa and I moved here as tenants because, you know, we wanted to live closer here. Now we, you know, recently bought a home. And for me, you know, I'm hoping I'm on the younger side and have many decades in front of me. And I plan on spending most of those decades here in Caldwell. So when I'm running for council, it's because I have a passion for this town. This is the first town I've lived in since the town of Roxbury where I grew up, where I feel like this is my hometown. I've lived in many other places and I just never really settled in there. So to be able to come in and settle into a town like this and have a running mate like Fran, who's been in town since 1971, is a great balance for me as a candidate, because while I'm looking for the future, or looking, you know, our slogan is securing the future, that's what we want to do, but we want to pay respect to the past as well. We don't want to just, you know, forget about all the people that came before us over the years. So one of the important values that Fran and I share is the passion for this town and making sure that businesses are successful. So the reason we're here in Flowerland tonight is because we know the importance of holding a campaign event for Caldwell Town Council here in town. Our opponents have already had 2 campaign events in other towns. Why they're doing that? I hope somebody asks them that, because to me, if you're running to represent a town, you have to be totally invested. So between having this here, between all the great restaurants that provided the food tonight, you know, we just have a strong passion for this. So one of the, if you haven't seen, we have the door hangers that we've been hanging on people's doors since July. One of the statements on that door hanger is that we want to help our local businesses grow. And we feel that holding these kind of events here and supporting the local businesses is really essential to having a thriving downtown. If we don't do these kind of events here, you know, in today's retail world, businesses are going to struggle. People go online to buy things, so we have to do everything we can to make sure that our businesses here are successful. So the other thing that Fran and I talked about on that door hanger is that we have a pledge to listen to both homeowners and renters alike. You know, I was a tenant here in town for a few years, now I'm a homeowner. You know, we understand that Caldwell has a tremendous amount of tenants compared to property owners here, and you have to give everybody a voice. And it's interesting that we wrote things that way, you know, back in April when we were coming up with those door hangers, because the other part I'd like to add to that is based on our opponent's comments. Our opponent has made many hyper-partisan comments basically indicating all Democrats are bad. And I'm a Democrat. I don't think all Republicans are bad. I have a lot of Republican friends. I want to talk to people on the other side of the aisle. Because if you want legislation that's going to last and prove the test of time, you have to talk to other people, see different points of view. You can't just have this hyper-partisan I'm right, you're wrong mindset. To me, that just isn't going to work in this day and age. So, you know, we're going to pledge to, you know, listen to people. That's why, as Jonathan said, you know, we both committed to holding public office hours so people can talk to us and we can meet with people and find out if there's issues that we don't know about that we can help with. So the biggest issue that we're facing this year really is, both as candidates and if we're fortunate enough to get elected, is dealing with the town infrastructure, as Jonathan had talked about. Between the sanitary sewer systems, the stormwater sewer system, the parking issues, the municipal building, the town, in a town of this age that's old, most of the structures are 100 years old, the infrastructure is old, these things have to be maintained over time, and every once in a while you do have to replace them. And we're at a crossroads where infrastructure needs to be addressed. You know, I want to live here for the next 50 years, but I want to be able to flush my toilet and not have it end up in somebody else's basement. And that kind of stuff is happening right now because the infrastructure hasn't been maintained. There's tree roots going into people, you know, into the sewer system that are cracking the sewer system. So the infrastructure needs to be addressed. You know, we obviously want to keep property taxes as balanced as possible. You know, Fran and I, we're both homeowners. We own private property, despite our opponent thinking that we don't like private property. And we pay property taxes. We do not want property taxes to go up, but we want the town to have an infrastructure that works for the people, for everybody in the future. So, the other part of that is, you know, we're going to pay, you know, we have a vision for the future, but we are going to respect everything that brought us to where we are. So, I'll leave you with this. So, as you all know, tonight this is a fundraiser event. So, it's a political fundraiser that I will admit over the years, for other politicians, there have been times where I have not gone to events like this, specifically because those events say on them, you know, a minimum donation required. Tonight, we specifically did not do that because Fran and I both, we want to talk to people. We don't want to scare somebody away because it costs money to talk to a candidate. As candidates, we need to get out there, talk to people. You know, we hope by the end of the night, before you leave here today, that you've heard something from Fran and I that makes you want to support us, makes you want to leave a check. Because the bottom line is, you know, this is a small campaign. You know, we've gone out door knocking, doing our best. You know, but in order for us to send mailings out, to print brochures, you know, put all the signs in the yards, everything costs money. We don't want to ask for money, but if you want to help us get elected, it's an unfortunate but necessary part of the campaign. So we hope that you will do that. The other way we hope that you will support us is part of the reason we did set this up tonight is we are hoping to get some people to do video testimonials for us. We've got a nice backdrop for you that we're hoping before you leave, you'll think of something 60 seconds or less. We don't need anything too long. Just in support of Fran and I that we can use on social media and show people, you know, who our supporters are. You know, you're all real people. If we get elected, we're going to be here to represent you, and you know, we want to thank you for all that support and hope that you can show that support back at us. So.
Thanks, Jeff. I've known Fran DePalma since 2016, and the first time I met her was actually at my house at a local Caldwell Democrats meeting after the 2016 election. I then realized that Fran lived literally just in my backyard on the other side on Central Avenue. For those of you who know her, you know what I've come to know and realize since 2016, those of you who know her longer. She's one of the kindest people that you'll ever meet in your life. She's one of the most intelligent people that you'll ever meet in her life. She's one of the most enthusiastic people that you will ever meet in her life. And I have to give Fran a lot of credit for running this year, because one of my responsibilities as chairman is to make sure that we have candidates to run in elections. And I approached Fran previously, and she was a little hesitant, I think, to jump in. But we were talking one afternoon. I was actually driving home from DC, and I remember the afternoon she told me she had decided to run. I was literally yelling in my car. I was so happy and so pleased that she was running. Fran DePalma, for those of you who know her, she needs no introduction. So, Fran, please.
I'm going to start dovetailing on a couple of things that Jeff said. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike and Bree from Gelati. There's a wonderful cake back there and a tub of pumpkin gelati. So please help yourself to that. They donated that to us tonight, so thank you very much. And also, Jeff mentioned that he was the youngest person, and obviously I'm the oldest. I've been in town since, I was in West Caldwell when I was 16. And then I've been in Caldwell since 1971. I'm one of the oldest people. So, but it does make a difference because we do have, we go back and forth on our perspectives, which is a great thing. I've been in the town for a long time. I care about the town. I own a house in the town. I'll tell you a little story. When I bought my house in 1971, guess how much I paid for it? $28,000. At the time, though, I was a teacher and I was making $7,000. So it was a big stretch, which was, it was 4 times my salary. But nowadays, if a person's making a salary of, say, $50,000, you can't buy a house for 4 times that salary. So things have really changed. One of the things I loved about this campaign, after I got involved in it, was knocking on doors. We've been knocking on doors and talking to people, and that's so interesting. First of all, you're walking on streets that you've driven through, so you really don't see them the same way. You knock on people's doors and people tell you what they care about. Interestingly enough, most of the doors I knocked on, when I would ask them issues, the issues were parking, and there's some issues I'll talk about in a minute, but taxes didn't come up that much. And I would even, if somebody didn't have something to say, I'd say, well, what about taxes? And several people said, well, I moved to this town because we love the schools, we love the feeling of the town, so we expected to pay taxes, in the town because this is the town. But I'm very concerned about taxes. I have sisters that live in Caldwell, West Caldwell. I have a great nephew over there, little Mason. Hi, Mason. And that's my niece, Alexis. My sister, another sister. We all live in Caldwell, West Caldwell, and we want the taxes to be spent wisely. You want young people to be able to move in. You want older people to be able to stay. So what you want to do is make sure that you spend those taxes wisely. But the infrastructure is an issue. When we were knocking on doors, Jeff found a family that was getting, is it sewage on Park Street?
Yeah. Sewage
into their house. So Lou and I went over there, we all talked about it. We told them to get a gate valve and a check valve, and they did that. But then the town council cleaned out the sewer line in front of their house, so that wouldn't happen again. We also have a person on Orchard Square. Every time there's a big rain, water comes flooding out across into his yard. We saw pictures of his swimming pool in the backyard, this much mud above it, above the swimming pool. So the thing that I like about it is that I feel like on the town council we can actually do something to help people. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to get involved. I really appreciate you all coming also. You can also help us out by taking a lawn sign there. I don't know why I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. I don't know why. I was a teacher for many, many years. I taught Councilman Barty from Roseland. I taught Lenny Luciano, both in elementary schools. I give you sort of an age. I'd just like to finish by saying that because of I've been in the town for so long, because I know so many, I taught you too. Because I've been in the town so long, and because I know so many people, I want to do right by the people here. I want to be known as a person who's honorable, who worked hard, who helped, like Jeff does too, who helped out people. That's what I would like to be known as. So if I'm elected, that's what I'm going to try to do. So thank you very much.
We have two great candidates in Jeff Gates and Fran DePalma-Iozzi. And I'm looking forward to working with them, all the members of the Caldwell Democratic County Committee, all the volunteers in the Caldwell Democrats grassroots group here in town, to pushing them over the victory line on November 5th. I would be remiss if I didn't give an acknowledgement of other elected officials who are here. Councilman Frank Rogers, thank you so much for being here. Councilman Henderson Cole, former Mayor Gartland and former chair of the Caldwell Democratic Committee. Oh, yes, and Mila J.C., Assemblywoman J.C., please.
So, this is a really nice gathering, and Flowerland is one of my favorite places to come for these events because of the beautiful flowers and the food, and also the people. Jonathan, you've done a great job. You have really built the party here, and we appreciate that. When John and I, So for those of you who don't know me, I'm on the ticket with John McKeon, and Senator Cody is not on the sign. Somebody asked me this question last night at my fundraiser, and wanted to know why Cody wasn't on the sign, and I said, well, because he only has to run every 4 years, and we have to run every 2 years. And I mention this because one of the things I have learned over the last 12 years that I've been running and campaigning for this office is don't assume people really understand how government is structured, right? And so rather than put people on the spot, oftentimes when I do, last night I had a house party for myself, or my friends had it for me, and I always start with a little civics lesson, which I'm not going to give you tonight, but it's always met with appreciation because people really don't understand how things work. And one of the things I like to tell people is that local politics is really, really important. Why? Because what happens on the local level affects the county level, affects the state level, affects the national level. And so every single level of politics is really important, and government is important. So never think that this is not an important election. It's a very important election. I'm really excited that Fran, where's Fran? Where'd you go? Oh. I'm really excited that you're running. One, because of the experience that you bring. I have a similar experience. I live in South Orange, and we've been there for 41 years. And on our block, we have a lot of new people. And they're like, why are you still here? You know? And I said, well, we love our house. We have great memories. Our children come back, thank goodness, to see us a lot with their children, my grandchildren. And we have seen how the town has changed. And it's changed for the better because people move in, they invest in their homes, they support the public schools, and they get involved. Sometimes in South Orange Maplewood, people are a little too involved. Everybody has an opinion about something, but that's a good thing. So Fran brings that perspective, and Jeff brings the perspective of someone who's rented here and who now owns here and is committed to living here. And I love what you said about feeling like this is home. That's really important. And that's how my husband and I feel about South Orange. It feels like home to us. New Jersey is not the easiest place to live. We understand that. It's expensive, but we also expect a lot from the taxes that we pay. And when services are not meeting our expectations, we have a problem, right? And that's why you need people like Jeff and like Fran and Christine on the council, people who are willing to listen to you and willing to work with you. Because I have a very strong belief that for every problem, there's a solution. And you just need to get the right people around the table to figure it out. And that's certainly the sense that I have gotten both from Jeff and Fran in talking with them. And the last thing I'll say is when you, the other saying that I like very much is, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And that's not a good thing, right, Sue? And Sue and I go back. She was one of the first people that welcomed me into the political arena, which it feels like sometimes. And she was also, I'll never forget this, I walked into a room at Pal's Cabin, which is now gone. It was one of my first campaign events, and I think you were the only other woman in the room. Probably. And it was all men, no offense. I have 9 brothers, a husband, 2 sons, love them all. But I think there is more balance when we have women at the table as well. And I think it's good to have everybody's perspective represented. But what I remember most about that night was not only were you the only woman in the room, but you were wearing a red jacket. And I thought, that's really a good idea. I have several red jackets. I didn't wear it tonight, but, and she welcomed me. And I have found that to be true in Trenton as well. We don't have as many women there as we want, but we have a lot of women running and challenging, and we're supporting them. And while John and I are not, knock on wood, where's some wood? We're not worried about this election, okay, because we haven't been redistricted again yet. But we want to support, we are supporting all of the candidates down ballot because we have the opportunity to flip some seats here in Caldwell, in Milburn, in Chatham Township, in Livingston. Well, Livingston's pretty solid right now. I'm missing some at Harding. I was at an event for someone who's running, a young woman running for the council in Harding. And that's part of our district now, believe it or not. So the fact that you're here tonight is really important. It means you care, and they're right. Even if you can only, someone wrote me a check for $10 last week, and I was just as happy to get that check from her because I know she lives in a senior citizen building, and I know that she and all her friends vote, right? So as important as money is, votes are also important. So whatever you can afford, it's an investment. It's an investment in your future, in your town, and that's really important. And when you have people like Jeff and Fran who are willing to step up and take on some of that responsibility, they deserve your support. So thank you very much. John's not here tonight. I just left his event. It's campaign season. We're out every night, and so we both felt it was important that I come and let you know how much we value your candidacy and yours, and Jonathan, the work you've been doing, and the fact that we're very proud to represent Caldwell. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Well, I'd like to thank everybody who made tonight possible. I want to again thank Frank and Flowerland for offering us your space tonight. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all the restaurants who gave of their time and prepared the wonderful food we had tonight. Dave's Delicious Deli. Mike from Gelati. Benji's Taqueria. Yes. Sabor Peru. And Forte. I just want to thank all the everyday people that help make this thing. And anyone who runs for office begins as an everyday person, like a regular person going about their day and living their everyday lives. But people who run for office, you know, feel an obligation to do something, and they run. But the amount of volunteers and the amount of support that goes into each and every elected official and their campaigns is really mind-blowing. When you run a campaign, when you conduct a campaign, when you see that happening day to day on the ground, you walk away knowing that there is no way that any one person does this alone. So for all the volunteers, all the people who have helped make this happen, who help make it happen every year, I want to say a very heartfelt thank you very much. Thank you very much. We would hope that you would be willing to, certainly you're welcome to take a photo with Jeff and Fran. We also hope you'd be willing, as Jeff said earlier, to make an endorsement video. It doesn't have to be long. State a few reasons why you're supporting Jeff and Fran. We had one endorsement video that was shared earlier, and the reach that video has been pretty amazing. It's been viewed over 700 times already. And in an election where the turnout typically is not going to be as huge as it has been in the past couple of years, that can make a significant difference. Also, I would be remiss if I did not say this. If you have received a mail-in ballot, please, pretty please, make sure you mail your ballot in. Okay, mail-in ballots become very, very important this year. Thank you, Stephen. The polls this year in Caldwell have changed. Districts 1 and 2, if you live in districts 1 or 2, you'll be voting at Lincoln Elementary School. If you live in districts 3, 4, 5, and 6, you will be voting at the Grover Cleveland Middle School. And if you live in District 7, you will be voting at Caldwell University. So please keep that in mind. Please come out and vote on Election Day, and everybody please promise to bring one other person with you and make sure they get to the polls.
One other thing?
Yes, Jeff.
One other thing I'd just like to add. We do also in the House, we have 2 of our school board candidates, Marie Lanfranc and Chris Elko. So it's a contested school board election. You know, please talk. I'm sure they would both love to talk to everyone. There's a lot of Caldwell and West Caldwell people here. So they're on the ballot in both towns. So I'm sure they would love to, you know, tell you what they're all about and, you know, be able to have your ear for a minute as well. So thank you both for coming as well. The final thing I'm also going to say is we probably have a lot of food left in the back, so please make sure you fill up because we don't need to take all these leftovers home. So make sure you leave full. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.